In the pledge?
I personally think we should just have the pledge and for now until we get back in there. That's my opinion.
Good. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 17th, 2020 Madison Fire District. This is the special meeting for the 2021 budget. We have a roll call.
Nyla's muted.
We gotta do a roll call.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Madison Board Member Max Anderson Jr. here.
Mr. Gottner.
Here.
Mr. Lee. Mr. Vest.
Here.
Mr. Wayman.
Here.
Okay. Who wants to take it from here?
I'll take it from here. I'm going to read a couple things if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
All right. Tonight's Fire District Board meeting will be conducted via video teleconference. It will not be having a public portion as we usually do. If individuals from the public would like to ask a question or make comments, they can do so by sending an email to Chief Baker at info@madisonfiredisc.com during the meeting. The board will address your questions or comments at the end of the meeting. If any further clarification is needed, email the fire chief, who will respond or forward to the appropriate person. Attending tonight's meeting are board members Jay Adams, Mark Vest, Pete Wayman, Bob Lee, Ken Gottner Jr., Fiscal Officer Joanne Clapp, Secretary Nyla Brass, Solicitor Stacy Dame, Fire Chief Todd Baker, and Fire Board Member Max Anderson Jr. Nyla, roll call, please.
We did a roll call.
We had roll call.
Yeah, we did that.
I know it, but all right. If you want to take over from there, Mr. Chairman, that's up to you. If not,
That would be his position.
Like I said, we got the budget hearing, so.
You want me to take over for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Joanne.
Sure. All right, you have a resolution before you later tonight, a resolution approving and adopting the tax budget for the Madison Fire District for fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2021, and submitting the same to the county auditor. This is our yearly one that we have to do before, we have to have the hearing before July 15th and submit it to them by the 20th. This is the one that we kind of give them the idea of what we're going to need for next year. I know that Exhibit A was probably uploaded kind of late. They had a little difficult. We had difficulty getting it uploaded to the folder. One of the items I wanted to point out to you, I did reduce the revenue on the property taxes by 100,000 compared to what we thought we'd be getting this year in, because of the letter that the auditor sent out that we're going to be anticipating collecting 94% instead of the 96 or 97%. So I reduced it down by 100,000, which is about 3%. Everything else is pretty much left the same, and in the same thing with the expenditures, they're down about 100,000 on there. So that's what I have for the tax budget.
Okay. Any questions for Joanne? Okay.
you want me to take over then from there, Mr. Chairman, or no?
Yeah, you can.
All right. Is there a motion for the minutes for May 20th, 2020 on the regular session? Is there a motion?
Oh, we doing that now, or I thought this was part of the special. Do we have to go into a regular meeting or no?
We need to adjourn the special budget meeting and then open the regular meeting.
That's what I
Okay.
thought. So I didn't know if there was
My fault.
anything else for the special
Yeah, my
meeting.
fault.
Yeah,
Is there anything else
All
for
right.
the special meeting?
I don't have
All
anything, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to adjourn the special budget hearing.
Need a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman. Max Anderson, board member.
Okay, Mr. Anderson. Roll call.
Mr. Gontner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Vest, Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Board member Max Anderson Jr., yes.
This is Mark Vest, yes.
thank you. Mr. Lee,
I saw something come up on the screen that said he left the meeting. I don't know what happened.
all
I
right.
believe he's rejoined, but he's muted.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's muted.
Well, we'll give it a second.
Time of adjournment when you please, Chairman.
Yep, we'll need a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Max Anderson.
Need a second?
I'll second
You
it,
already
Mr.
did, you
Wait,
already
we
did
already
the
did that. Wait a
motion to
minute.
adjourn. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so it
that-
was 7:07 for the actual adjournment.
That was what the roll call was for, adjourning the meeting.
Right, I just need a stated time of adjournment, please.
It was
Time is
7:07.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are we all caught up now? Are we adjourned?
We
Now
are.
we need to open the regular meeting, Jay.
At 7:07 PM, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Did you happen to count how many were there or anything? Muted.
Okay. It's 7:08 PM. Now we're going to go into the regular session for the Madison Fire District.
You can't hear me.
Okay.
Well, I
You want me to go ahead, Mr. Chairman, or?
No,
hold
I'm
on?
good.
All right,
I'm good at the moment.
all right. Is there a motion for the minutes of May 20th, 2020 regular session?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to adopt the minutes of the May 20th, 2020 regular meeting.
Second the motion. Vest here.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gontner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion for the bills and payroll for May 2020? Bills at $124,892.86. Payroll, $147,001.28, and for a total of $271,894.14. Is there a motion?
I'll make that
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chairman. Pete Wayman.
I
Is there
will
a
second it. But we're going to have a problem here, gentlemen and ladies. If we have two chairs here, two chairs can't make motions, and we're having a problem here. So one of you guys is a chair and one of you is not a chair. So who's it going to be?
Well, I don't think Mr. Anderson heard me, so I think that was
No,
the issue.
I did not hear you.
I think he does now.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Any discussion?
I'll need a second on the motion to pay the bills and payroll. Beg your pardon.
I think Mr. Wayman already made that motion.
He
Yes,
had
he
made
did.
a motion. I'll need a second.
I'll second that, Nyla.
Thank you so very much.
So on your,
Any-
on your discussions, so you know, I noticed on my detailed report that under Lake Health has a little confusion, and that is for Brushes, Ohio, Police and Fire Pension Physical. I have pension physical, and And you're probably wondering what that meant. That's what it means. It was for his Ohio Police and Fire Board pension physical on there. And then as you notice, I did pay the interest for our loan on it. That's why the bills are so high.
Any questions for Ms. Clapp? No further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gottner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Okay, we come to the May 2020 financial report. Joanne?
Sure. We started May with $4,323,357.25. Our month-to-date revenue was $154,971.45. Our year-to-date revenue is $2,443,312.17. Again, our month-to-date expenditures is $271,894.14. Our year-to-date expenditures is $1,447,222.63. So we started June with $4,206,434.56. And I know the chief has his notes. I've seen his notes that he's going to be, he wanted to discuss a little bit on the budget.
Any questions?
Any
Hey, Mr. Anderson? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you can't see us. I do have an agenda here, so
That's fine.
that's what I was
see
saying
that.
earlier. I was good.
Okay,
I think-
then you can
I
take
think it was
over.
getting a little confusing. I'm sorry.
All yours.
Okay. Any questions for Joanne?
Ready for my next spot?
Go ahead, Joanne.
Good.
All right. So, to the board, I discussed with the chief some prior to this. I would be recommending that maybe we transfer at least 1 million from Andover Bank money market to Star Ohio for more interest. And if comparing it to last month's with Andover's money market, we had $1,474,538. We got $155.83 in interest. In Star Ohio, we had $1,628,392, and we got $1,001.44 interest. So I thought if we transfer another million over to Star Ohio to get more interest, and then again, if we do this, if we need the money, as long as I have 48 hours, we can get it back to Andover. It will leave us over Andover Bank about $644,000, and then we do have our advance coming probably at the end of July, and then the money, the property tax advance coming at the end of July. How does the board feel on that?
Anybody for Joanne?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
I'm good with that, Joanne.
Okay, I will do that so we get more interest. And then if the interest switch the other time, when we come to the board meeting in July, I will bring it back to you if Andover would pick up. So
Okay. Sounds good.
Everybody else good with that, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Wayman?
I'm fine with that, sir.
I am good with it.
okay.
Very good. I don't know if Mr. Lee's still on there or not. Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Joanne. No other questions for Joanne?
No.
Okay, moving on to the opening public portion. Were there any questions or anything, Chief?
Mr. Chairman, I've not received any questions from anybody in the public.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dane, legal counsel, anything?
Things are just progressing according with the plan. I've been in communication with Mr. Gates, so I'm trying to move that along. I do have additional information that I received from Attorney Ermish, so I wanted to add that to the information that I was going to pass to the board, so you get it in one email. So look for that communication before the end of the week from me. But that's all basically that I have to report. And you'll see the resolutions in the new business, unless anyone has questions for me.
Any questions, Mrs. Dame?
I don't.
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Vest.
Thank you. Question about the fire, the district and the inspections and the fees and the collections thereof. Have we had any success in that area? Or I don't know if I go to you or to Captain Sapko or to the chief, but it seems like this would be the time.
My understanding is Captain Sapko was handling that. I had prepared the correspondence, and my understanding from his previous assertion was that we were kind of holding off on the collection efforts just with all the businesses that were closed down and everything with COVID. So I don't know if Captain Sapko, I see that he's attending. I don't know whether he wants to speak to that or not, but I would defer to him because he would have the knowledge.
Mr. Vest, that was
Yes.
the plan. We wanted the businesses to get back open and, get their business under control first. So I would say probably within the next month or so, we'll start refiling the letters with them for the fees that aren't paid.
Well, I noticed that we are making some inspections at this time. So therefore, I didn't know if, that revenue was still coming or whether it had been stopped or whether we're having compliance at this time.
Yeah, Jim's back out doing inspections. He's pretty much at a regular pace now. He still had re-inspections to do from prior to the COVID starting. He's getting caught up on a lot of those. Those were kind of just left in limbo because places had shut down. And then we were not going out and interacting with the public, but he's playing catch up on a lot of those now.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
The invoicing has started again, so for the
Okay.
inspections, we're kind of going back to where we were 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing on the report, that, the lack of invoicing there. And so that's why I asked the question. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Captain.
Any
You're
other
welcome.
questions? Other questions for Mrs. Dame?
Oh, Andy.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Moving
We
on to
Reports for you, Mr. Chairman.
old business. Nothing there. And new business. See, we got a couple resolutions there. I don't know if Joanne or Stacy want to read those.
Joanne can do the first one.
Okay. Thank you.
The first one is a resolution approving and adopting the tax budget of the Madison Fire District for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2021, and submitting same to the county auditor.
Do we have a motion for that?
You
Mr.
have
Chairman,
This is Mr. Vest.
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Max Anderson Jr., second.
Okay. Mr. Vest was first, Mr. Anderson second. Roll call.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gottner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Okay. We have another resolution there. I believe Mrs. Dame is going to read that one.
I will read the resolution and then I will let the chief explain a little bit. It's resolution number 20-14. It's a resolution authorizing the chief of the Madison Fire District to purchase a Dodge Charger police cruiser and a 2014 Dodge Charger police cruiser from Madison Township, an amount not to exceed $8,000.00 and authorizing payments provided therein. The specific VIN numbers of these vehicles are referenced in the resolution. I'm not going to read them for purposes of reading the caption, but
You said the chief was going to have some input.
So Chief Byers notified us that he had a surplus of his 2 detective cars. One of the things that we've identified over the last 12 months, with the inspector is the inspector is oftentimes using the duty crew chase vehicle, which leaves the duty crew short. So this was an inexpensive way to provide him a vehicle so that we didn't shortchange the vehicles that we needed for the duty crew staff. The other car was going to be a chief's car because since 2017, I think it was, we kind of eliminated that. I thought this was kind of an inexpensive opportunity at $4,000 per vehicle to get a command car back, which is something that we've lacked for 3 years. I've looked at both vehicles. Both vehicles appear to be in good shape. Again, I think that Mr. Anderson and Mr. Adams could probably explain the detective cars are probably better to purchase than the cruisers because the cruisers run all day long and the detective cars don't. Chief Byers was willing to work with us, and we came to terms on this $8,000, which would buy both vehicles. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
There will be a little additional expense. They stripped the lighting, so we'll have to do a little bit with lighting, but we are not going to do anything near what police cruisers have. We're going to do the minimum required by law to give us the 360-degree lighting that's needed.
Chief, I think also, isn't some of the radio, like mounts and stuff, they're still in the vehicle? Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, both the consoles are about $500. They left the consoles in both vehicles. Both vehicles still have the control box and the siren, which is about another $300 or so worth of equipment. So just that equipment alone has probably got $800 in value per car.
Okay.
Any other questions for the chief? Hey,
I
Chief,
just have one.
quick. How much do you think you're going to have to spend on these, just outfitting them, just so everybody has a ballpark figure?
I think, and actually, my guess is probably $500. Looking at like a little mini visor light and a couple of side marker lights. We're not looking to do light bars, and less is more.
Thank you.
And I did say 500 per car, right? I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. I heard an echo, so I wasn't sure what I said to myself.
This is Dane. Yeah, Tom.
I just had one quick comment for the township trustees. I've seen a copy of the resolution because I know that these cruisers are going to be deemed as obsolete. But the reference in the resolution references a provision related to real property as opposed to just the provision under 505.101. It references 10A5, and that's real property. So I just want to make sure that nothing comes up later on for the township.
Stacy, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there when you say real property.
In the resolution that I saw that's gonna surplus these out, it has, you know, because political subdivision to political subdivision can sell motor vehicles or property, but the code provision that's in the resolution, it's referenced as 505.10A5. And A5 is relating to real property as opposed to, it should be, you know, 505.375 CB and 505.101. So it's just a matter of referencing the wrong code provision.
Oh, you're talking about in our resolution?
Yeah, I just wanted to make you guys aware of it.
Okay, I'll talk with Tim Brown about that tomorrow then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because it references real property and we're not selling real property, so.
Right, okay, now I understand what you're saying.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
If you take care of that, Ken, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll talk to Tim in the morning, Max.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief on those vehicles? Okay. Do we have a motion for this?
I'll make that motion. Fire Board Member Max Anderson Jr. on Resolution 20-14.
Do we have a second?
A second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gautner? Second. We have roll call.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes, this is Mr. Vest. Trouble getting this thing not to mute.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the chief's report. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Starting out, just a couple anniversaries. We have firefighter Charlie Barnicoat just completed 28 years. Firefighter Mike Fear, 2 years. Firefighter Rich Camp, 28 years. Firefighter Doug Rott, 9 years. Firefighter Rudy Graham, 26 years. Firefighter Matt Drew, 4 years. And firefighter Sam Erdani, 4 years. So this was a big hiring month for Madison Fire over the history. From a budget perspective, I was a little optimistic by seeing what the county auditor suggested we'd be seeing in revenue. I guess I'm just going to say I'm optimistic. I'm hoping that his projections are correct. The budget seems to be in line. There's a couple areas that are off as you look at the budget report that is in the chief's report. Obviously, budgeted sick time continues to be something that we're over. We're at 101% right now. And I just want to remind the board, we had one firefighter at the beginning of the year that went off with medical, who subsequently ended up resigning his position. We actually made it about 4 weeks until we had a second firefighter go off on a medical. He continues to be up. So one of the things that we didn't budget for our 2020 budget was having a full-time firefighter using sick time for the entirety of the year. Our HSA is a little bit off. Again, we're at 106%. That 106%, that overage is due to the resignation of one firefighter, the employment of a new firefighter, and having to create the new HSA that wasn't part of the budget. So again, directly tying back to unforeseen medical circumstances. Our advertising, we're at 128%. And I mean, that's a small number when we look it over. The other thing I'm a little leery of is our tax collection fees, because we're currently at 89.7% of what we budgeted. And I think we talked about this last year. I have no idea what they're charging us. So that may be something that we may need to address once the second half is done. I don't know if Joanne has any more insight on that. You're muted, dear.
No, I'll check into that for us, get us an answer. I'll reach out to Barb Hoja.
Okay.
She may better explain it for us.
And then the other thing that you'll notice that's glaring is our EMS equipment. And a lot of that revolves around the COVID. And if you recall, we did receive CARES money. So that CARES money collected kind of offsets. We're still in a good place, but from a budget standpoint, because we had additional money come in, it didn't necessarily change that budgeted line item. So at some point, we may have to do a little bit of reappropriation. Some other things, staffing. Staffing's been a challenge, as I reported, I think last month. We had 8 people off on a leave of absence for either medical and or personal reasons and or COVID. That was about 20% of our staff. Summer is always a challenge for us with staffing because we're so heavily dependent on part-time. I will tell you that we did require in the last month, we did require 9 12-hour overtime shifts. The only saving grace for us is our staffing. When we require overtime, that means that there are 3 people who are on the calendar to work. So while we're paying overtime dollars, we're essentially paying one person overtime, and we're not paying 3 people to be here, if that makes sense. So when you look at our line item for budget, when you see that the salaries are still pretty much in line, the reason is because we only pay overtime once we get to a certain low point, and that means we're not paying the other people to be there. So it sort of balances out, if that makes sense. I want to prepare the board. Vacation time may be an issue. I know we had many full-time guys that canceled their vacation time, which was a big benefit to us in lieu of the COVID. I think many of them had vacations planned that were canceled because of the virus. That significantly helped us because it helped us with staffing when we were down 20%. I'm only bringing this up because at the end of the year here, we might be scrambling and needing to come up with creative ideas because some of these folks have some significant vacation time yet to take. Again, don't have a solution, just throwing that out there so that it's something that doesn't blindside us in the future. We did have a tentative offer for a new part-time guy. There's a hometown boy that's completed his firefighter paramedic, lives right up here in the village. We're having him go through some of the process, and hopefully next month we'll have him here for you to swear in. And currently we're still down 5 people. So we're going to try to bolster that up some. We do have some plans to work with the high school for recruiting, because I don't know if you guys realize, but I think like the last 4 people were all Madison high school graduates, Madison kids that are working here for us and serving their community. So that's going to be kind of a target. I'm working with firefighter sample on that. Vehicles, Captain Sopko is going on June 22nd and 23rd to somewhere South Dakota.
Brandon, South Dakota.
Where is it?
Brandon, South Dakota.
Brandon, South Dakota, to do the final inspection on the fire engine. Hopefully when they go, they will have done a really good job and it doesn't have to sit there for another month to fix things that aren't correct. Once that final inspection is done and we've accepted that piece, it then will go down outside of Columbus to the Johnson fire equipment. They're going to do some mounting things, and then the goal right now, I think, realistically, would be to have that truck here and ready to show people in August. Does that sound about right, Captain Sopko?
Yes.
So that's moving along. Our maintenance program is underway with the squads. So the board knows we did hold off some of the maintenance on the fire engines. They're in good shape. However, if we put one of them out for maintenance, we have to pull that 1994 Darley out. So right now the greater risk is trying to use that old truck and breaking things that we're going to need to repair. So as soon as the new truck comes in, you'll probably see a big bump in maintenance costs as we get those 2 fire trucks in for preventative maintenance. I did talk to Trumbull Township. They do have an interest in that old truck. Fire Chief Tom Clay and a couple of the trustees are going to, at some point, stop over here to take a look at it. I let him know some of the things that we're going to be stripping off. We haven't talked anything about dollars, but we may have an opportunity to sell that municipality to municipality. Obviously, the surplus vehicles from the township you know about. Any questions so far? Because I don't want to lose people. COVID, I just kind of want to give a COVID update. You guys see I keep sending out some of the data. Just kind of look at the last 2 weeks. There's actually an overview of the COVID cases with some graphs and trends that is in the board folder. Over the last 14 days, Lake County has had 18 new cases. I don't know whether anybody's following Governor DeWine's pressers, but one of the promising things is Northeastern Ohio, which includes Cuyahoga County, the R0, which is basically the infection rate, is at 0.88, which means for every person infected, they infect 0.88 people. That's a good sign, because as long as that number is less than 0, that means we're on the path to hopefully minimizing and eliminating the virus. Let's see. One of the things I would pose to the board is I think the village and township have both reopened their offices. Is that correct?
Township is not yet, Chief. We're going to not consider that till 1st of July.
Okay. Well, I guess that's one of the things that I wanted to see the pleasure of the board as to when we resume. We've kind of lightened up a little bit. Like, for instance, we weren't letting people come in here and work out. The firemen come in here and work out. We kind of locked things down. We've eased that up. I don't know if the board has a pleasure on timeline to reopen the district office. But I certainly would say by July 1, if not sooner. I know Nyla and Joanne are both coming in and kind of doing some within the office and some remotely. So I will tell you, my tentative plan would be to open July 1. I don't know whether there's any objections from the board, obviously, unless there's some type of spike in COVID cases, but I don't think we're seeing that right now. Run volume remained consistent. We're getting closer to normal. In May, we had 235 calls for service. We had 157 medical transports. I looked over our billing, and there's a kind of a trend of our billing attached to the chief's report. We're still down. I think that we're going to really probably see $25,000 to $30,000 in decline in EMS billing because of those transports we didn't do. But we'll see where that ends up. We talked about the inspections already, and I just want to commend both the village police chief and the township police chief. We had to scramble at the last minute last weekend to come up with a plan because there was a gathering. I don't know what term to use, but there was a very short notice gathering. I think all three public safety organizations worked together pretty well. We did bring a couple of extra people in just to bump our staffing. I want to thank Northwest Ambulance bumped their staffing. Perry and Painesville Township were also on board with helping us in case we had some kind of disaster. Unfortunately, it was peaceful. So other than that, I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for the chief?
I have nothing. I read the reports.
One question or one remark, I guess. Thank you. This is Mark Vest. Chief, you've heard from the county as far as the revenues, right? And
Correct.
how they expect them to be at normal levels, correct?
I believe they said 94%, so they were down 2 or 3%-ish.
Okay. Because I was under the understanding a normal rate anyhow was just about 90%. Am I right, Mr. Conner?
Well, the numbers jump around. I've heard that in a good year, you're around 90. For many years, Ed Zapancic used to say in a good year, you're at 95%. I think Galloway's saying something a little bit different. But in some of the worst years, you're at 90. So I think we're pretty close to a lot better than I thought we'd be. But I was talking to our fiscal officer about that yesterday, and I think part of that, Mr. Vest, is that a lot of people pay their taxes through their mortgage, and if anything, people kept their mortgages up. You know, they didn't get behind there. So as long as they're paying their mortgage, their taxes are getting paid. I guess I'm kind of the anomaly. I've always paid my taxes separate from my mortgage, but most people don't do that. So I think that has a lot to do with why we're seeing, what did he say, Joanne, 94% maybe? Is that the number?
Yeah, 94% next year, yes.
And that's only a percent below what Ed Zapancic used to say was a good year. So there's different auditors have a different look at it, but for years and years, we always went by 95% as a good year, and 90 is being a really bad year. So
I can tell you the information that we've got in the last 2 or 3 years was either a 96 or 97% is what the county has sent. 2 years ago, the county gave us a 97% projection. This past the year 2020, they gave us 96, I believe, wasn't it, Joanne?
Yes, and we were pretty close to collecting that percentage.
So yeah, 94 is not. I mean, if we hit the 94 that he talks about, that's not a big hit.
No. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the chief?
Nope, I don't have any.
Hey, chief, I just had one. With the vacations that were canceled, or those guys are moving them or whatever, about how many are we looking at? About how many weeks?
Well, the most senior guys have, so there's like 3 guys, I think, that are up to 5 weeks. We have a couple at 4 and some at 3. And I guess we'll kind of wait and see as this plays. The only reason I bring this up is because a lot of vacation was scheduled in April, May, June, and a lot of that was canceled. And the cancellation, I understand on their side was, if I'm planning on going to the beach and the beach is closed, I might as well not take vacation. But it also benefited us on our side too, because with 8 people off and now having these guys go on vacation, that would have really put a hurting on some staff. And the only reason I brought it up is because as we get to the end of the year, I don't want the first time that you hear about this being the end of the year when I say, hey, all these guys got vacation, we're paying overtime. We're going to try to work with them, and some of them have scheduled some of that time now that the restrictions have been lifted. But it just, they go through March, so they have to use their vacation time by March. So the holidays we may make up what we've missed. But I just, Mr. Andrews or Mr. Adams, you know how the PD is. People are scrambling for time, and then you get to the end of the year, and there's always people that scramble at the end of the year. Well, there may be more people scrambling at the end of the year because of COVID and because they canceled it. And I'm just planting that seed because, it benefited both parties by canceling that and them being here. I'll keep an eye on it and let the board know as we progress here.
Yeah, that's nice. So those guys have till March then.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I mean, we have just a calendar year. That's why I was asking, because we know the summertime is going to be busy, so you got what you got there. It's very limited staff. And then you'd only have maybe 3 months to get all these vacations in. I didn't realize you guys actually went to March. So
yeah, it's like March. It's basically March to March.
Okay. No,
so we still got plenty of time. But again, I didn't want to come down to the end of the year and say, hey, I got guys who need to take vacation. I can't let them off.
Right. No, we're in the same boat. 3 weeks of mine already got canceled, so I totally understand that. So, okay. Any other questions for the chief?
No.
Okay. Anything for a closing public portion? Did we get anything in?
Stand by, Mr. Chairman. I'm checking. Somehow my email got closed. No, sir, there are no questions from the public.
Thank you. Any closing board comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank the chief for keeping us up to date on all the COVID-19 stuff. It's been eye-opening to say the least, and it's been a lot of good information. I've shared it with a lot of other people that I know, and thank you for keeping those numbers updated, Chief, because my own personal opinion is the people doing the modeling are way off. I remember at one point Dr. Acton said back in mid-March that 10,000 people a day would contract the virus, and we haven't even been close to that.
Definitely. Anyone else for the chief? Okay. Same thing, Chief. I just wanted to say, you guys been doing a great job up there. I know the protest thing came in last minute. Well,
yeah,
did too. So I know how quick that's got to be put together. You guys did a great job with that, and everything else. Like I said, thank you. I'm thinking for July. I know our next meeting is July 15th. I'm thinking I would like to do that in person. Again, at Station 3, I think we can have all the cautionary things in place by then. That's kind of my idea. I don't know what everyone else is thinking.
I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman, Pete Wayman.
Are you looking for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Do we need a motion for that?
I think it would help to clarify things at this point, Mr. Chairman, and just to make it official.
Well, is there a motion then for moving back to Station 3 on July 15th and do it in person at 7 p.m.?
I will make a motion.
I will second that motion, Mr. Vest here.
Mr. Wayman was first, Mr. Vest second. Roll call.
Mr. Anderson,
He's muted.
Mr.
You're
Gunner,
muted, Max. Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
I believe it is *6, Mr. Anderson, to unmute.
thank you.
All right.
Okay, well, good on that, huh?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just on that, maybe Chief, we can set up, it may be, I don't know how much microphone cord you have, but maybe we can set the board members a little farther apart and stretch us out in that room that night. Is that possible? Maybe a different configuration?
We will get creative.
Okay.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see everyone again.
Okay. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I believe that was Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I will second, Mr. Chairman. This is Mark Vest.
Mr. Vest? Roll call.
Mr. Gantner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, are you going to move the executive session to next month then, so we can have face-to-face discussion?
Yes, I think that would be better. This got a little confusing tonight, so.
Yeah, I will, just let me say, between now and next month, I put together a document. I'll send it out to the board members and Mrs. Dane by email so that it can help in that discussion.
Thank you. This way, I would like that kind of in-person thing. That way, we see everybody and they have input when we go to that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a question for Ms. Kane, please.
Yep.
Do we need to refrain from conversation during that correspondence, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Mr. Gantner can send us information, but that will be the end of it, correct?
There is no discussion on it until we are either in a public meeting or in a meeting together in executive session for that purpose.
That was just for clarification. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll do that, Mr. Vest. I'm just going to send out some information so everybody can look at it.
Thank you. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Everybody stay safe. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief,
Yes, sir.
stay on just for a second here.